Hi everyone, it's your boy Zach, and this is my review of Alien, which I think I just saw all the way through for the first time. I'm not sure. So I've mentioned this in other videos about the kind of wonky way that people would watch movies in the 1970s and 80s. If you didn't see it in the theater, which was normal because the average family went to the theater about, I don't know, 3 times a year. And if you didn't have HBO, because HBO was for, quote, rich people, you just waited for it to come on broadcast television in an edited form. But the average person, you just kind of, you'd come home from whatever soccer practice and like, oh, Aliens on. I get to see, I've heard about this. I've heard it's scary. But you knew they cut the really scary parts off, so you would see the last 20 minutes. Then, 8 months later, you would see the first 40 minutes and then have to go to church or something. Then, 2 years later, you would catch the middle and you would kind of stitch it all together. You go, I've seen it. I've seen it. But I'm not sure if I did because I just did what I thought was rewatching it. And there were whole. I remembered Ash being a good guy, very kind. He is obviously malevolent the entire time. I think I only saw like the first scene he was in. So I've got to say, having watched the Alien movies out of order, and actually even started watching Aliens versus Predator, and then I finished watching Alien. I just want to say they should totally make a sequel to this movie. So one of the interesting things about the Alien, quadrology, all the ones with Sigourney Weaver, is they're all quite different, which I like. I like that in Mission Impossible. That was the original deal. That each one was going to have a different director and a different tone. And then once they got to Christopher McQuarrie, they go, let's just keep doing it like this. The prequels, Prometheus and the other one, they match just fine. Alien Covenant. But the sequels don't. One of the things I like so much about Alien is that it doesn't feel like a movie. It doesn't feel like actors on sets. It feels like people in environments, spaceship, a planet, an alien spaceship. And it feels very, verite, very, real. It's a lot less scary than I remembered it being when I just saw it in bits and pieces. But I remember there was this really well done, like 12-inch tall doll of the alien that came out in 1979, and that used to scare the shit out of me. I have a friend, you'd squeeze the back of the head and the little inner jaws. Oh my gosh. I was like, I remember even as a kid, like, why is this legal? This should not be a toy for children. It's too scary. So, having not seen them in filming order or in chronological order in the Aliens universe, which I've heard is also the Predator universe and the Blade Runner universe, supposedly they're all supposed to be in the same cinematic universe, which is cool to me. I know there are a bunch of, what do they call them? Plot holes and things. Until the prequels, everyone always assumed that the alien had been around for a billion years. And it was only in the third one when we saw a different version of the alien. But it's not exactly a Yoda thing. Yoda is, you see the original trilogy and you really kind of admire and revere Yoda. And then you see him bitch the hell out in Revenge of the Sith, and it always kind of destroys Yoda for it. He's just that pussy who couldn't fight worth a goddamn, and then flew away in his little teeny tiny spaceship and hid for like 20 years. So one of the things that's good about this is I was kind of fighting memories and false memories of having seen it. So yeah, they do a bait and switch where it's not clear that Ripley is the main character until, I don't know, about a third of the way through. That being said, it's not as scary. Like, most of the scares are jump scares. Now, I'm watching this on my phone during the daylight, and I can't imagine in 1979 in a theater it was just scary as hell. But this is, I'm seeing it in the least scary way possible. But it's just good. I did this thing before where I was saying like, oh, it's a horror movie in space. I go, it's just kind of a good movie in space. Yeah, I was trying to be too galaxy brained with it. It's just a good, solid movie. So they set up the situation. You have these, they're basically a salvage crew. They're returning to Earth, and then they get a signal from a planet. and it's part of their contract. There's a great scene where like the two blue collar guys, the two non-officers. I believe there's only two non-officers in the crew. Everyone else is like a flight officer, a pilot, commander type of thing. They're arguing. They're like, "Hey, we're enlisted. We don't get as much pay for you. Why are we going down to this dangerous planet?" And they're like, "Read your contract. If you do not respond to effectively, distress calls or unique signals, you forfeit all of your shares." They're like, "Well, let's go down." So they go down, and I've got to say, like, I like Aliens. I do. I like Alien 3. I like aspects of Alien Resurrection. Everything looks good in it. It's not just the ship they're on and the shuttle. Then they go down to the alien ship. They see and then even like the eggs. You see the eggs in the other movies, and they look like really good props. The egg in the first one looks completely different. It looks totally real, and you're just like, how is this good? And then I was going through this listicle of Ridley Scott movies from worst to best. And it's kind of funny. Like, I thought he had done more movies. He's done 25, which is a lot. But I was like, I'm sure there's someone who watched all of his movies in 1 week during the lockdown. But it was only his second movie. The funny thing is that his second movie is just as assured as his 25th movie. He was probably what? Late 30s? Very, very confident. And again, like I'm saying, I like Aliens. It's fun. But this one feels real and confident. It feels like a guy he's like, I know I'm a master. Just get on board because you're all going to be saying it. So just get on board right now. I'm an absolute master. So everyone is good at this. Every single person. And there was even characters that didn't have a lot of lines, like Lambert, who was kind of like crying a lot and scared. There's this unique thing in the Aliens universe where people get really, really scared but still do their job. Like they'll kind of pretend to quit or they'll ask to quit, and everyone's like, "No, you got to do it." And they're like, "Yeah, okay." It's kind of like these kind of like militarized private corporations. But I found her performance just fascinating. I mean, it was very, very deeply human. Whereas, in the other movies, it feels like actors. There's a great speech by Rock, Charles Dutton in the third movie, but it very much feels like a speech. It's kind of shot from below, and you can tell Charles Dutton is like, "This is my speech. This is my time." But in Alien, it just feels like people talking and just saying what they think. And so that's kind of shocking in a way. So Sigourney Weaver, which I found out was not her name. It's a character name from The Great Gatsby. She's, I looked up her Wikipedia. She's from Manhattan. Her and Scarlett Johansson, there's this unique, like, my dad was an executive accent of like people who grew up, wealthy, wealthy white women in Manhattan. They have like this particular, like, kind of breathy thing they do. I don't know where that comes from because New York City people tend to be loud, even in the gentrified current version of it. So I just can't imagine growing up in Manhattan, even in the more expensive parts, because it's not like you stay there; you go to the other neighborhoods. I just can't imagine her in like 1970s Greenwich Village, like, "Excuse me, I'm looking for the heroin dealer." I feel like is this an actual like upper class, wealthy accent, or is this an affectation that people who grow up in those subcultures use when they get to Hollywood? Just like her in 1985, it's like, "Excuse me, Mr. Crack Dealer." But she's a fascinating character, and I've got to say, again, I say this: name a better fictional character than Ellen Ripley. Your hand goes up, you start to say something, and then you go, "Yeah, there isn't one." She is fully formed from the beginning. She is this one. She's more of a normal person. She isn't like killer bitch queen that she becomes in the second movie, and then kind of like Messiah in the third one. And then I actually like the fourth one. She's basically she's a clone. She's a completely different character, and she's just wonky and fun. but she's a real person. She argues. There's even a part where she's I believe the second or third in command, but she has like the temporary command, and she gets ignored. And then when she goes to talk to the guy who ignores him, it's not like, I'm in charge and I have this rank, and it was like, so I noticed you did what you want to do. You know what I mean? And that's pretty slick. And that's one of those things that is usually not done in movies. They usually go for the grandstand. It's like, I'm this rank and you will do what I say or bad thing will happen. She's just like, yeah, so we like to do what we want to do and not just what's better for the crew. And yes, as everyone says, Ellen Ripley was telling everyone, I was like, no, there's a quarantine protocol. You don't just go down to a planet and see an alien organism, and they literally have like this janky mask that does like almost nothing, and they only put it in at like the last minute and take it off. I'm not talking about the helmets. I'm talking about when they're doing the examinations. So it's also one of those movies where like it's been talked about in pop culture so much that you can feel like you saw it. The chest burster scene, they had a parody of that in Spaceballs and a million other things. But when you see it and you see the acting, like, it is very, very effective. And like I said, it's kind of this like actor's showcase. Yaphet Kotto is one of my favorite characters. He's got this like mumbly thing. I think he's always got like a butterscotch candy or something in his mouth, or chewing bubble gum. So he's really like mumbly, but he's like very, very real. And there's never like that moment. Like they have a captain. He's a good captain, but he's kind of like an understated captain. And then he just kind of dies. And nobody's like, I am rising to the challenge. You got Yaphet Kotto, who, you know, he's a big guy. And he is the guy who says, like, I'm going to kill him. But it's more like, I'm sick of this shit. But he doesn't make a big grandstand. You know, Ripley is kind of like, hey, let's take this piece by piece. He's like, look, I'm just going to go take this flamethrower and just go kill him. And one of my favorite parts is him and Dean, oh, God, the Avenge Me guy. Avenge Me. I'm blanking on his name. It's Dean something, right? They're like the blue collar guys. They're the fixers. And there's a great part where like, hey, we need this. And he's like, yeah, give me 20 minutes. And then there's another part where Ash, who is revealed to have, you know, evil programming by the corporation, he designed something. And you could tell like Ripley just doesn't have confidence. She's like, what does this do? He's like, measures disturbances in air density. And she's like, yeah. Okay. you give him a flamethrower, you know, people are happy. You give some wonky tube device where it's like measures fluctuations in air density. And yes, there are what I would probably call plot holes. They're mainly in that, like, in 1979, they couldn't predict things that were commonplace in the military 10 years from now. It's like, you couldn't just heat signature and just find it and then just lock down the bulkheads, remove all the oxygen. They even think like you have the vacuum of space, or like we want to chase it to the airlock. It's like, no. All you have to do is detect it, lock it. And they did have a couple lines about wires malfunctioning and things like that. Do you see what I'm saying? If you have all these bulkheads that slam shut because of, you know, explosive decompression, if the hull is breached, then there would be a series of them. All you have to do is find out what hallway the alien is in, bolt him down there, and then open all of the bulkheads leading to the space dock. You don't have to get him into the space dock. You know, Cisco would have done this in like the last 5 minutes of a freaking episode of Deep Space Nine. He's like, they're up on the, I forget what the little loading area. He's like, seal it off, open the exterior port, and blow him into space. Nobody would have been killed. Nobody would have left that little lounge area in the middle of Deep Space Nine. But anyway, I know it's kind of a moot point to say it's definitely a recommend. But not only is it better than I remembered, but it's better than I misremembered. Video title. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm watching Alien vs. Predator. It's already not very good. It's funny to think of like 2004 as being like old. It's an old movie. It's from the first Bush administration, it's his administration is a whole 8 years. It's from the first 4 years of his administration. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.